Right, so welcome. So my name is Dr. Thomas Daffern, and I've been asked to be the coordinator of this International Delphic Academy, um, which was set up, as we'll hear later from Christian, back in 2019, I think it was. We're gathering in honor of the Delphic movement, the vision that Delphi of ancient times promulgated to the world, self-knowledge, the spiritual underpinning of knowledge. Many of the greatest philosophers of the ancient world, Orpheus, Pythagoras, Plato, etc., even Aristotle had links to Delphi. And it was an oracular center, as we know, but it was also the host of the Delphic Games, which are not well known, but the Delphic Games were as important as the Olympic Games. Back for 1,000 years in the classical era, poets, musicians, theatre people, dancers would meet in the grounds of the Temple of Apollo and would perform every 4 years, like the Olympic Games. And this was revived back in 1994 by Christian Kirsch, who's joining us today and will be speaking a bit later, as a attempt to revive the arts as a field for peacemaking. Back in the day when that was happening in the 90s, I was involved in London as a philosopher. I'd launched Philosophers and Historians for Peace. And I felt that, every little thing we can do for peace is important. My work has been, I've got a dual personality. Part of me is a scholar and academic and writer. Part of me is a poet and a wandering bard and a druid. So I'm interested in the Delphic movement from both hats. My interest in the Delphic Games is that I'd like to see them revive big time, as important as the Olympic Games. I think that whilst I love athletes and sport, and it's really good, to show off your body and throw javelins around, it's also really good to do creative work in the field of the muses. So I run a center here in France for the 9 muses. It's called the Museum of the Muses. I coordinate Philosophers for Peace in Europe and have done since those days in the 90s. I'm in the dead center of France geographically, if people are interested. And in fact, the other day I went with Mari, who's going to read some poetry a bit later, to a thing called the Center of France. We found a sign saying the Center of France just up the road from here. And geographically, it's in the center of the geographical landmass of France. So what do I see? What's the vision for the Delphic Academy? Okay, so the Oscars are promulgated by the Academy of Motion Picture Artists, and they play a very important role in selecting the Oscar winners. It seems to me the Delphic Games are going to need EDA, that's us, the International Delphic Academy, to help steer the formation, the location of the games, the protocols, the kind of, and to get the educational institutions of the world aware of the Delphic Games, just as the sport world is aware of the Olympic Games. They all tell their young students who are training in whatever, whichever sport, look, if you're really, really brilliant at this, you might be able to get to the Olympic Games. I want all the art teachers of the world's schools to be able to say this to their students, that the Delphic Games will be the pinnacle of their work as artists. I want the performing artists of the world, the musicians, the theatre people, the poets, the novelists, the filmmakers, and people that are inventing new forms of art now. One of the categories that we have in the Delphic Games, which is unique, is what's called ecological arts. And that's so needed, isn't it? So, and quite how you define that is something that we can discuss as the International Delphic Academy. And we might have a whole meeting dedicated to the art categories. Christian defined back in the 90s, but we need to we might spend a meeting looking into them in detail. And then we can discuss how we can reach out to each different sphere of the arts. There are also questions about how you define excellence. There's a whole sort of, nowadays, many artists believe in anti-art, to be bad is cool. Well, we have to look at this stuff, the politics of excellence. Those are going to be interesting discussions to have. I suppose I'm a political radical, but a conservative when it comes to the arts aesthetically. So let's have those discussions as EDA, as the International Delphic Academy. And I welcome everyone here to this meeting. You're all excellent at something in your own spheres. And we're going to hear a run through of different people presenting their work, their life, their vision. Collectively, we are the Delphic Academy in formation, and there are other people that aren't joining us today, but will do in future meetings. The plan is to meet every 2 weeks. I've been organizing monthly meetings for the sorry, not every 2 weeks, every 2 months, because I've been organizing a monthly meeting for my Peace Institute and the World Intellectual Wisdom Forum. But I've decided to make one of those meetings every other month dedicated to the arts, and to do it jointly with the Delphic Academy, because I think intellectuals are great. I love them, but in a sense, the artists need to step up and do their thing now. So that's by way of introduction. I'll say a few more little words at the end, possibly. Okay, I want to invite our first speaker now, Stefania Passamonte, who I believe is joining us from the UN, or certainly New York. So,
yes,
Stefania,
I'm at the United Nations headquarters. Quite beautiful. I just came out of the conference room to talk with you.
Okay, well, look, very brief introduction. She's a famous classical pianist, a performance artist, lives in London, is involved in musical education, and has made many recordings. I'm a great lover of classical music. She's been in the Grammy Awards. I think you were in LA just recently.
Yes.
So tell us about, why is art important? Why is music important to world peace? And how do you see the International Delphic Academy going forward, playing a role here?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I am a big fan of the Olympic Games, in the sense that they are a moment where all the nation gets together to celebrate sport and fair play. And I believe the Delphic Games should have the same level of importance for uniting the arts, all type of arts. It doesn't exist an event similar to these. I've been at the Grammys just this Sunday. And they are a fantastic moment where you get musicians from all around the world getting together and celebrating each other. The Grammys, when you see it on television, you see the full arena just made by members of the Recording Academy, musicians, producers, and artists. So it's and labels. So I would like to see a full stadium full of artists from all the fields doing exactly the same, supporting each other and celebrating the best that there is in the world. So with that kind of spirit, we could really make the Delphic Academy and the Delphic Games to become again what used to be, equal to the Olympic Games. So I'm very excited to be part of this team. I'm very excited to meet you all. I'm here at the United Nations talking about the importance of music for the Sustainable Development Goals. I've been involved with peacemaking with Ukraine. I saved students from the war because I was the only music conservator that had a partnership with the Music University of Kiev and Kharkiv. But I also have professors, students, and artists in my record label that are Russians, and that have been working with each other, Russian Ukrainians. So music is a fantastic tool for international diplomacy, for cultural diplomacy. Music, and of course, any other form of art, visual art, performing art, and it's a language that is universal. So even when you watch theater in another language, you still understand from the visual movements of the acting of the body and the face. You can get the feelings of love, of tenderness, of peace, of anger, of rage, anything. So I think having all these together in one place, in one big arena, should become something really, really, an energy so unique that can really help us change the world.
And what was the group in the UN? What's the context of your presentation
They,
there?
so that was exactly about the power of music for the SDGs. So the use of music to, in particular, this time it was about climate change, climate action. So I've been involved with an international movie, the very first Italo-Japanese co-production in cinema. And I will be the music director and actually one of the main role in the movie itself. And we are composing music. I'm composing music, and I will be performing. And the essence of the movie will be about quality education for children and have awareness of climate change and support actually in this specific case for the earthquake and reconstruction of Noto. In Japan, they had a huge earthquake on the 1st of January 2024 and destroyed this historical heritage that goes on for around 1,000 years of some of the most important artistic art craft from the Japanese tradition. So as you see again, is music connected with art, connected with film, connected with all the possible fields you can think of. So this movie will be presented to the United Nations and of course to the major music festivals and film festivals, and will be spreading the very important message of climate change action and international partnership.
Right. Did I hear you say something about Japan had just had something destroyed? The sound is not very good.
I'm
What
sorry.
happened?
So that was in Noto area in Japan. They had a huge earthquake on the first day of 2024 last year, and so it's destroyed all the laboratories for these very specific art craft traditional of Japan. One of the one that they are so proud of is used as a gift by the emperor as a wedding gift, the emperor of Japan. And the movie will be set into this area, and we will be showcasing the art craft and the tradition. So the boy, the protagonist of the movie, is actually inheriting these while dreaming about singing opera. That's why I'm involved. And it's between Italy and Rome, Japan and Rome. And I cannot tell you the ending, but yeah,
No,
it will
no,
be
it's all
very
right.
much
Secret.
connected to the
Yeah.
heartbreak. So it would be very impactful, we believe, in spreading the message.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank
this
you.
is a
Yeah.
movie with a message. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that destruction, but it reminds us how fragile we are as humans. What we saw in LA, all around the world, the things we take for granted are never guaranteed. That's why we have to seize the moment and create beauty now that we can hand on to the next generations, and somehow make reparation for the craziness of the 20th century and now the start of the 21st century, which has become like, it's as if human beings prefer making war than peace, and I can't believe that. Well, thank you so much for your words, Stefania, and for your example. And we hope to see you again. And when that film comes out, we must somehow get it to the Delphic Games showing in an appropriate forum. Okay, now let's move on. Alexander was going to speak next, but he's not been able to organize his presence on this call. So let's have Inga Meta, please, who is joining us from Norway. If you can unmute, Inga, we'd lovely to hear from you. Yeah, hello.
Yes, hello. Hi, and greetings to everyone. It's so nice to see you and be here with you. I think this call on the 6th of February 2025 is a historical day. I bless all of us, all of you, that and our intention to do something beautiful together. So yes, I'm here in Molde, Norway, and I'm here with my friend Bremley. He's way Bremley, say hi. Bremley is sitting on the second floor. I'm on the third floor, and we are working right now for youth projects and to get really the spirit of wisdom into our work to restore the planet and to rebuild a culture that can actually embrace our emotional landscape as Stefania was saying. So we can hold a reality that it's not black and white, good and bad, but really all of it, and to really really get into I was not going to say democracy, but I really think we have to have a governance where the inspiration is the Delphic Oracle as a council. And I think that's where the Delphic Academy is coming together, Thomas. So this is my short introduction, that we have to come together as a council in one spiritual unity and embrace the creativity of the arts in all of us.
Right. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't properly introduce Inga, but she's on the governing board of the International Delphic Academy. Behind the scenes, she's been very helpful. We've been working closely together with others. And she is like a one-woman oracle in herself. I've just discovered that the Pythia in ancient Delphi, who was the oracle, I always thought they were younger women, like the early 20s and so on. No, you had to be 50 or over to qualify as a Pythia, I've discovered. And I think that's appropriate, because when you reach that age, you've got a certain degree of wisdom. So I think one of our plans is, when the next Delphic Games happens, we're going to appoint a Pythia during the period of the Delphic Games as a sort of symbolic gesture, in a sense that the oracle is back, and not just in AI, but in consciousness. So Inga, you've been at the forefront of a lot of this stuff from Norway, and also you go to Africa a lot. You're involved with the Alexandria Library rebuild, which was built by some Norwegian architects. How do you see the vision of the Delphic Academy helping support artists around the world, many of whom are struggling, and there isn't a sort of political economy for art as flourishing as with the sports world, where they have sponsorship and they wear the right running shoes and all that. How can we create a kind of political economy for artists that gives them status, prestige, and support, and they can become full-time professional artists, and yet stay on the peace track? Because I know you're interested in economics and you've thought about this a lot. Give us a hope that that's possible.
Well, thank you for the big and surprising question, Thomas. It's a difficult question, but I think we have to get artists and the creative community as a spiritual force into our local democracies and the global democracies as well. And I'm saying this with a reference to the Greek democracy, where tragedy and comedy had a real realm to parodize, to complexify a reality in a way that could bring laughter and tears. And that was part of bringing into emotional understanding the other, or the enemy. So the role of the artist has to come back into society. I really like it from a Dadaistic point of view. I like it from Joseph Beuys, Kurt Schwitters, and holistic understanding of us as human being and the creative force of or sexual creativity, in fact, to manifest life on the planet. And this creative force is strong. And when it comes to the economics of the creative industries, we have a lot of things to manifest. I think it will come as a gift as we move forward. We don't have all the answers yet. But when Adam Smith, and you probably know this better than me, Thomas, I should pose the questions back to you. But Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, had actually creativity as part of the wealth, and also health and well-being. So I think the thing about happiness index, the way we can measure our joy of being alive and to have a life and to have a thriving economy and to embrace the beauty on the planet and the life that it is possible. And so the wealth of nation and Adam Smith and the new economy of the creative class, we are the starting point of it, Thomas. That's my hope and belief. And then when it comes to the International Delphic Academy, I am supporting your vision of bringing it into as a form of dialogues, of manifestation of immersive dialogues and community-based dialogues that are new and grounded with the proposed educational networks of universities and schools alike. So yes, I'll stop here now. I think, yeah.
No, thank you. That's very helpful. I mean, my just footnote to what you said is, I think beauty is something that is the most valuable thing in life. What we value is gold, diamond, jewels, because they're beautiful. And one of the oldest art forms on the planet is fashion, design, clothes. And Inga is herself been involved in fashion at a high level internationally and locally. And I just discovered something in New Scientist this week that the fashion industry is at least 60,000 years old. They've discovered early prehistoric, sewing and women wearing beautiful fashion items in Paleolithic times, and people will pay for that even now. So the arts go back to Renaissance Italy. You know, the patrons of the arts were the millionaires of those days. So anyway, I think we've got a formula we can develop here.
Yeah. So on that note, bringing wisdom from the beyond the Greek beginning and into the Greek or into the Egyptian reality, the traders were a priesthood. So the priests, so for example, along the Silk Road, if you sold food or spices, anything that would kill and poison the buyer, your reputation will be damaged. So you didn't create, so there is something that has to be refined with the ethical values that we have to bring forward in know to yourself, so we can really pose that mirror to ourselves without blaming and accusation of others.
Well, I think we can all agree that war is bad for business, bad for the global economy, and it's bad for us humans. I mean, this is about a human-centered reality we're trying to reclaim. So anyway, thank you, Inga. And now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Bremley Lyngdoe, who is also joining us from Norway, and who, I must say, I was very impressed looking at your history, Bremley. I know you don't have time to give us a whole rundown of it. I think you've got links to Notting Hill Gate, where my daughters were born, 2 of them, and I used to live in Notting Hill. So hello. Tell us about what you've done in your life, and you've just got back from Ukraine, I believe. You've been in Kyiv. Tell us what you've discovered about the Ukrainian artistic, resilience. What are they doing, and what I believe you got some plans to develop projects in Ukraine. Do you want to run through that with us? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and greetings to all of you. I first want to appreciate and thank Inga for inviting me to your circle. I've heard a lot about it, but I couldn't join earlier because I was in a war zone. We get these sirens, air raid alarms that last for 2-3 minutes, 3-4 times a day and through the night. Every day, Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, gets about 70 to 100 drones fly by. Some of them are armed, some of them are dummies, just to track anti-aircraft fire, then hit them back. Very cleverly done, but ever so often we have ballistic missiles that hit downtown, and especially the area where I was living with my friends, because it has a lot of energy plants which they try to target. But one ballistic missile hit one of the restaurants we were eating just the night before. In the morning, it was destroyed and 5 people were dead. So people got used to it. They're living on the edge, but everyone's got bomb shelters or bunkers. That's how all those post-Soviet countries are built. But the people are very resilient. I walk in the streets of Kyiv, everybody is busking outside, playing a violin. There was a girl. It's just one of the oldest European cities with so much art and music and folklore and stories that most of us don't even know about. The architecture is spectacular. The food is the breadbasket of Europe. The soils are so fertile. It's a agricultural superpower. The young people are totally engaged. The group I was working or supporting was called Brave to Rebuild, and they came about 2 years ago, and they have about 20,000 volunteers that have come and gone since the war began, both national and international volunteers that are helping to rebuild schools across provinces of the Ukraine and homes. I found out that 250,000 homes have been destroyed in the front lines, and a value of more than $60 billion worth of homes destroyed. So there's a lot of reconstruction to be done. So I've been working with a group that call themselves the Eco Action, and they've been proposing a post-war green reconstruction of Ukraine, looking at the total carbon emissions from the invasion of Russia and how much emissions it has created, which is a lot with all the armaments and tanks and explosions and stuff like that. And today Inga took me to her friend's company called Rofi, and I'm delighted to know that they've been sending life-saving equipment for demining aprons for men and women with visors, bulletproof vests, and ballistic helmets, all developed here in Malta and being sent to Ukraine to protect people on the front lines, especially those farmers or landowners that have no gear, who need to reclaim their land and demine, because there's just hundreds of thousands of mines laying in productive agricultural land. So if you want your life back, you need to clean those mines from your garden first, at least in the front line, before you can sow your seeds again and produce something beautiful for your family and the market. So there's a lot to be done in Ukraine. It's a massive country, like I said, with so much art and history, and this senseless war needs to end. I was in Independence Square, and I saw flags from almost 50 countries together with the smaller Ukrainian flags, which represents all the international volunteers that have come and died fighting together with the Ukrainian forces. Obviously, very young people, I can see with the pictures that hung beside their flags, and I can say the average age of people that died must be 24, 25. So in their prime, and they're all gone, defending their freedoms together with friends from all over the world. So I've been doing my part to help protect these young souls by knitting nets, camouflage nets and stuff that can protect them from drone attacks. There's nets that are meant for the snow during wintertime, and there are nets that are meant to cover and protect them during the summertime. So at least everyone is knitting these nets, grandma, grandfather, young people, volunteers from all over the world, but then they help cover people across ecosystems to blend in with the environment. And it does help save lives. And I really hope that this totally senseless war would end, and then we would have a lot of rebuilding to be done. And I also found out that the Ukrainian football team is very strong, and Inga is all about promoting diplomacy to football in achieving the SDGs. So we can use a lot of art and music and games and football and food and dramatics to heal. And I think it's also a way to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, because a lot of people have gone through war and it'll take a while to heal. But I think this is the way to embrace the arts and music and street theaters once missiles are not flying anymore and once drones are not targeting you anymore on the ground. This needs to happen in a synchronized manner with all the neighbors around Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bremley, for your moving testimony. And I just ought to say that one of the features of the Delphic Games in antiquity, and what drew me to getting involved with it, when I discovered that it was always connected with a peace and a truce. When the Delphic Games took place under Apollo and Gaia and Dionysus, who were like deities presiding at Delphi, you weren't allowed to compete in the Delphic Games unless your nation was at peace. If you were an aggressor nation, if you were attacking other countries, you couldn't go to the Delphic Games. It was something that had to be earned by being a member of the peaceful international community, as it were. And that, of course, I think is true in the Olympic Games. You're not allowed to take part in the Olympic Games if you're in the ancient classical world, if your nation was fighting other nations. And even now, there's a thing called the Olympic truce, which was agreed by the UN. And during the time of the Olympics, you're not supposed to be fighting. And that's why Russia wasn't allowed to participate in the Paris Olympics, because it's an aggressor nation that had invaded its neighbor. Well, you know, I want a Delphic truce to be promulgated as well when we have our next Delphic Games in the similar way. You know, it might help because, ironically, there is a Delphic movement in Russia. Maybe we could flag, you know, that we could have a sort of, they can come to the Delphic World Games if they withdraw from Ukraine. It's a tiny bit of leverage we've got, and it's worth trying because we have to get common sense and peace between Russia and Ukraine. You know, I've got friends from both sides, both communities, and let's hope the artists can come together and make beauty, make music, because there's a huge tradition of arts in both Ukraine and Russia that we can draw on here. So thank you very much for your work, Bremley, and we hope, you know, we'll hear more about it as time goes on. I'd like to invite Claire Hedin now she's joining us from England. Say something about your work, Claire, and what you do for healing and all that. And I think you're going to play us some music as well, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I'll need to switch rooms because my instrument's in the other room.
Okay.
So just because I have to, my name, the surname is actually Hedin. It's a Swedish name.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. Nobody gets it right. Literally nobody. So it's really hard, isn't it? Especially at some of our ages, to try and condense lifetimes into a few sentences to do justice to.
Well, you've got 10 minutes, Claire. Come on, you can do it.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that long. What a luxury. So I'm a multidisciplinary artist. It's a very big mouthful, that word. And I spend most of my time with sound and music. But I have also an academic background in consciousness. And that's what I studied for my sort of further education. And creativity and the nature, really, of how things come into being. So I created an online platform called Dynamic Emergence, which literally explores, as I say, how through interaction we experience ourselves and one another differently in different settings and different moments, accessing different types of knowledge and information, sensory, emotional, rational, and intuitive. So there's an awareness of all that, and I learned all that from childhood spent walking in the forest and walking on the shores of the stony beaches in Suffolk. But I have lived in San Francisco for about 35 years and just happened to be back in the UK because I'm relocating. So I'm exploring Scotland as a place to land and hopefully to flourish. I would say, even though I do use art and writing as ways to explore meaning and to understand things that I might be experiencing or witnessing, as I say, the music is the thing where I think I've gone the deepest into understanding what are you? You know, what are you, sound? What are you, silence? And to see what I learn from that, who and what do I become in the presence of deep listening? to that effect, or to that end, there's a group that I co-created called Omkara. Om being like the universal vibration or sound, and Kara is a word that actually exists in multiple cultures, which is why I like it so much. But it usually means beloved or friend, dear one. But there is one country, and I think it's Italy, but I'm not entirely sure right now, where it means stormy one, something like that, like it's got real energy to it. And I like this idea, the idea that consciousness is not all about gentleness. It's really about becoming, it's about vibrancy. And we fluctuate just like the water in the ocean. Sometimes it's vast and aggravated, and other times it's very, very mellow. I've took music into the Oakland Children's Hospital for many years, original music, and that's probably where I learned the most about the nature of how when the chips are down, people show up, and we lose a lot of the facade, the social facades. And so I found that to be a very exciting privilege to make connections with people that were based on real moments in real time, knowing the value of the time and the value of each moment, whether that's with the families or the children on their own, and sometimes the staff. And I did a lot of lecturing, sounds a little bit awfully one directional, but I did a lot of talking and sharing around this with people and giving people tools for how to use their own voice. They don't have to identify as a singer, but to use their voice as a way to change their state of consciousness. And I've been doing this for so long that I have witnessed like instantaneous changes, both obviously in myself, but in others too. People who don't use music as a tool because they think you have to be a musician. So it's exciting to me that there are other ways to perceive art rather than just for sort of random entertainment. And that they really are a portal, each with its own language. They're a portal for each of us to enter into different awarenesses and different understandings. And I like the idea that we can do that as facilitators, as well as practitioners for ourselves and so on, educators as well. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I wanted to share. I'm going to put 2 links into the chat. One is for Omkara, because then you can hear it. And that's all improvised, by the way, because it's based on the realization that, as Joseph Beuys, who Inga Mehta mentioned, that the audience is in fact part of what develops because of dynamic emergence. Because if we're in a shared reality, then all of that is in there. So I'll put that link in. And then Soul of Place is the work where I do a lot. I've been singing at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco for about 9 or 10 years now. And I also learned a lot from being in that space and listening. But the videos that I make, I go to places out of season. So whether it's Venice or here, usually Orkney at the moment, but I'm visiting Findhorn for a week. But also in the West Highlands and in Suffolk. And I go for a couple of months and I walk every day and just listen and feel. And I track everything. So I take loads of photographs and video and record the sounds of the wind and the water and the waves and everything. And I over time generate sort of this multifaceted spoken word, music, video sort of tapestry that speaks of, or on behalf of, the soul of a place. And I do that as a sort of student of the place itself. So that's a lot of words. I think that's sufficient in terms of words. I'll do just a little bit of singing. How long shall I sing for? A couple of minutes?
Well, sure, you've got 3 or 4 minutes. Maybe you need to change the setting on your sound on the laptop to music, or it won't communicate it.
I will. Yeah. And it might be a good idea, if anyone's not muted, it might be a good idea to mute, just so that we don't get the
Sure,
feedback.
Yeah.
And just so you know, you're going to be hearing this instrument, which was designed, it hails from India, but this particular model was designed by my friend from the UK, Stefan Cartwright, and built by a German craftsman. So now my original sound is on. We're all good. And for those who are interested and who might know something about music, I'm literally just playing 2 notes as a chord. Can you hear that okay? All right. And I invite you to just really relax, have both feet on the ground, put down anything you might be holding, and just allow yourself to take it in. Just notice the space that is you, your vastness, your tininess, your belonging, how still you can be, and yet how active your atoms, alive, and that you are this intelligence. You are life's intelligence, moving and swirling and presenting itself in so many forms, having multiple conversations with and through itself over and over. And you are that. You are the space that is happening in. You are that which is happening. There is no limit. And in that, there is beauty. And the gifts that you are, the gifts that you bring, the gifts that are here for you. Namaste.
Well, thank you so much, Claire, for a beautiful sharing from the heart. And as you were speaking about, why music and the arts are important, the idea of music therapy came into my mind. You've probably, and when you talked about going to Oakland Hospital, and
yes,
you've obviously been around people that are in medical need. The way I see this planet at the moment, it's a bit like a hospital planet. there's an awful lot of people that are ill in mind and body.
Yes.
And we are the healers, actually, because Apollo was not only the god of music and the arts, but also medicine. And so we should realize this is a medical work we're doing. We've got a medical emergency on. And people like you,
yes.
we need people, the sound healers, the music therapists, to come to the Delphic Games, to get involved. You know, that's kind of, and it is a therapeutic work we're doing, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, it's a hugely interesting conversation to have. This idea: does a person have to be evolved in order for their work to have an evolutionary contribution? You know, this is genuinely a good thing to sit with and wonder about. I don't have a definitive answer. I just think it's an interesting thing to think about. But I do agree that the arts have the potential, just like everything really, to create coherence or to generate distance, you know?
Yeah.
And that does, I think, maybe come down to skill level, like intention, but also to some extent, the ability to be something of a master of your trade so that you can fine tune what you're doing to be quite specific for different situations and different moments, different people, different, not necessarily different outcomes, but just generosity, I think, is the root of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're certainly in the presence of a master, Claire. So you've given us a tiny little glimpse of your capacities.
Thank you.
I'd like to think if we could get 10 people like you together in Grace Cathedral, which I know and love well, and did a performance, then we could magic peace into being between Russia and Ukraine.
Absolutely. That's such a great venue.
Okay,
and
so that's
you'll see some of it from the Ankara link that I'll click in a second. On my site, you'll see some of the pictures from the laser show that we interacted with. So the whole thing was improvised, and we'd never played together before, ever. And we had 3 hours improvised concert, 4 of us.
Yeah. I knew Bishop Spong, who was the bishop there for a time, who set up a United Religions initiative, you know, in Grace. So anyway, many conversations still to come there. Very important. Yes. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you.
Let's move to Ed Lance now, who I believe is joining us from Los Angeles, and is like a one-man genius entrepreneur for sort of the high-tech end of the arts and entertainment. Ed, tell us about your life story, your journey, and how the Delphic Academy could help you manifest peace in the world even more effectively. Tell us what you've been up to.
Rock and roll, Thomas. Thanks for the intro. And if I could share my screen, some of what I do is a little bit on the visual side, or make me co-host, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just going to sort that just a sec.
Yeah, so my background is electrical engineering, actually. I went into engineering because I felt that the future of art and entertainment would be technology. So I actually have a little bit of respiratory issue from the fires, I think. But anyway, so let's see if it's letting me share. Yes, indeed it is. So I put together just a few slides, and I'm going to go through these very quickly, but I'm happy to do a more in-depth presentation. But this quote by Gus Speth really set me off on this journey more recently. He said, I used to think top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science would address these problems. I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and spiritual transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. Well, I say visionaries, artists, and world builders do know how to do that. And a lot of the folks who've already spoken have addressed this as well in different ways. I work with XR technologies. This is a wideband interface to the brain. And, this tech can actually, I believe, accelerate the evolution of consciousness towards wisdom on a mass scale. These are some of the technologies that I work with. You know, you have the virtual reality, of course, where you block out your physical reality and enter a cyber world. You have AR, where you merge digital and real physical. You have spatial augmented reality, like these immersive domes that I work with. These digital dome theaters, large-scale, real-time interactive group immersive environments. So you come together in community and have a awe-inspiring experience together. And what's really cool is I'm sort of a pioneer in the digital dome space. In the mid-90s, we started edge blending multiple projectors on these domes, and now you see it everywhere. Digital planetariums are the largest of this number, giant screen cinemas as well, but there's these other applications that you'll run into as well. The granddaddy now of all domes is the Madison Square Garden Sphere in Las Vegas with 17,000 over 17,000 seats. And it is a very powerful experience that you can have. And I've looked at the cognitive neurological response to this immersive media, where it wraps around your head and you feel like you're in another world. Film and television, you know, is really good at things like the cliffhanger. Oh, is he going to fall? Oh no! And you know, fear and excitement and humor and titillation and like that. And these are the what I call the low-hanging fruit of storytelling. What's interesting with immersive media is you start to get into these other sorts of brain states that you can evoke. You know, awe, you know, sense of wonder and ecstasy. You can lead people into deep mindfulness states and like that. And I think we're just barely exploring this. One of the most powerful emotions of these is awe. And there's a number of studies out there that you can find where it says awe, you know, increases empathy and altruism, less fear of the unknown, less need to be right, increases creativity. I mean, world kind of needs that right now. I think, you know, so, and you know, we can craft programming that uses the power of immersion to deliver transformational outcomes, open hearts and minds. And of course, music has been as well known as a powerful mood altering agent. I mean, what we're doing is taking music and augmenting it with immersive visuals to create these powerful experiences. My background is I started out designing these theaters. Well, I worked in a dome theater for a few years, got into video on domes. Then you know, I was writing code to make the sun and the moon go in Cocoa, Florida at the Astronaut Memorial Planetarium. But then I went to work for a planetarium manufacturer now known as COSM. And I got to design theaters all over the world, a dozen of them, 3 in the UK, you know, Library of Alexandria in Egypt. But then I launched my own company, Vortex Immersion, and it is my attempt to bring this format out of, you know, just science and astronomy education and into mainstream arts and entertainment. And I've done lots of dome events, many of them in large pop-up domes like this party in Los Angeles, 200-foot diameter dome, 61 meters, like 3,500, 4,000 people I can think we fit in there. Big EDM party, also concerts and all sorts of stuff like that. We also had our immersive media studio, the Vortex Dome in downtown LA for 10 years. And prototyped a lot of different types of programming. We learned a lot from those experiences. We also did a lot of social impact, you know, events, special events with the State Department, Producers Guild, you know, just Cal Arts, you know, had an immersive media class at our dome for several years. So, you know, so what that's led us to is like this realization that, wow, we can build these community domes, whether they're pop-up or permanent, you know, architecture, that are creative placemaking centers, that are places where people can come together and have awe-inspiring experiences, where artists can perform. So essentially what we're doing here is amplifying the artist's expression and magnifying it, if you will, and able to deliver it at scale. And the kinds of programming, educational, evening entertainment, live entertainment, creative placemaking activities. We've done drum circles and ceremonies and wellness programming. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. Learned a lot. There's also educational films. There's like 400 films available now. We would love to produce original films, that would be educational, but use some of this affective power of the format. We do have 2 films. These are our flagship films. They're playing now in about 60 domes across the country and have sold 1.2 million tickets, grossed about 36 million US. So it is actually a sustainable, and these types of shows, they're entertainment, but we're also bringing people into states of awe. People come out crying. Pretty amazing stuff. So, this is one project, a community dome park. We're trying to anchor this in Santa Monica, in the Los Angeles area. We have Domeplex, which is a high-end immersive experience complex. The main live performance theater has an elevator stage, can seat about 1,600 people. We're looking to put that up in Phoenix. So here's a few links. I love this format. I promote it all the time. Try to get people aware. You could go to your local dome. They're all over the world, and work with them. Come in, bring in artists, prototype shows, and maybe come up with something that can go out into widespread distribution. So it's a powerful format. I'd love to see it used for good. And I'd love some bigger money to come into this space. It's really a worthy impact investment opportunity. So anyway, that's all I got.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ed. That was pretty awe-inspiring, to use your word. I mean, I've got one question for you, which is, are any of these domes developing peace-related immersion experiences? I mean, has anyone made a film about peace to show?
What's interesting, Thomas, yes, but a lot of that it ends up falling into niche categories, right? So what we've taken an approach, instead of talking about peace and trying to communicate cognitive concepts about taking care of the environment and stuff, we've been evoking those brain states that open hearts and minds, connect people, and people just naturally feel, oh my God, it's like they feel interconnected. They feel more love for their fellow human beings, and so we're focusing more on the affect than the cognitive. And what we found is, there's so much out, there's so many ideologies and philosophies and information and getting thrown at us. And when you take people out of the cognitive and bring them into these, I think of it as higher brain states, actually, you become more attuned to peace in a real sense, rather than wagging your finger at someone and telling them you should be peaceful,
So you've created it's like a new art form that can induce peace in people.
I tell you, it reminds me of, and I love the Delphic movement. I'm more familiar with like the Florentine Camerata. When opera was invented, they had these new instruments, the violin, and they had, all this, but they're like, we have to reinvent art, and so they created opera, which was a fusion of music and drama and art. And this is very similar. Like, we're cooking up, and we can engage musicians and visual artists and AI, programmers, and it's like you can really engage the whole community in creating these experiences.
And poets, don't forget poets. And it would be like being inside, an art performance.
Indeed. Inger.
Yeah. So yes, Ed, I'd like you to share a little bit of what you see we can do to assist in Los Angeles right now and prepare from the Olympic Games in Paris. The next Olympic Games will be in Los Angeles in 4 years. And how can we get the muses to dance inside these domes and produce a narrative that can communicate?
Absolutely, yeah. There's really two sort of tracks. One is the programming side, which is really the important thing that we're delivering, but then also the venue side. And it's crazy, but Los Angeles does not have a dome theater that we can access right now. We had our dome for 10 years on Studio Lot. We've been talking to, it's a little bit confidential, but the Santa Monica Pier, which looks like the Olympics, one of the games, the volleyball games can be right there at the pier. And we'd like our domes to be on the pier in the backdrop of that. You know, the bigger challenge for us really isn't a vision or stories. There's no lack of artists. You know, there's really have no trouble bringing in artists. There's lots of very talented artists who can create transformational experiences. It's been more on the cap raise side because the domes are expensive, the shows are expensive, and I mean, in LA here, you see tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars going into these movies that bomb, and it's like, you know, who paid to do that? You know, film. It's like, but you know, just a few million, we could build an incredible facility. You know, so. I've been working on the cap raise side. That's really been the sort of the biggest challenge for us. And there's impact investors with a lot of money who want to make a difference, and it could engage, you know, this whole community that we have on this call here. You know, everybody has skill poetry. You know, we use poetic narrative almost like neurolinguistic programming. We just don't tell people, oh, this is going to change your life or this is going to make you more peaceful. We just bring them into those brain states, you know.
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
the
thank you.
Olympics, we have the Olympics, we have the World Cup, we have the American football Super Bowl, you know, all coming up in the next few years. 2028 are the Olympics here in LA. So that's incentive to invest in. And so, yeah, it'd be really great to get a dome up here.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the weather holds and that, you know, because there is some doubt if fires start keep breaking out every summer in LA, they'll shift the Olympics somewhere else.
Yeah, there's also some talk about our new president pulling the Olympics from LA.
Well, you know, yeah.
I don't know, you know.
Anyway, lots to talk about there. And
yeah, thanks, guys.
You and I can have
Can I ask a question, Ed?
Yes.
We talked about, you know, using music and reprogramming our brains to live in harmony with the planet instead of bombing every country on the planet and destroying it. So, you know, LA is burning, the temperatures are rising. Through the domes, do you think we can create a two-way immersive experience where people are looking into a hologram, but if you have a huge farm or a mangrove forest or another forest or a farmer in Brazil or indigenous people in somewhere, we connect all these domes and people from different countries that are watching these forests can actually engage in that visual reality because everything has already been scanned by drones and is projected like a hologram there. And whatever they do in the visual space, plant a tree digitally, happens in reality like a matrix in that farmer's land, which has already been mapped and 3D scan, a digital twin in the country. So you don't have to be in that part of the world. You can be in LA, you can be in London, you can be in Japan, but you're immersed and connected through that dome in a hologram. And whatever action you do individually or collectively happens in reality at the same time and is monitored through an auditing system, which is real, geo positioning every tree, every benefit to every farmer and every, you know, every tomato that grows, and it's all connected in that grid in real time.
Brimley.
Okay, have you got the question there? It's a complex
Brimley,
question.
you're hired. No, you know, yeah, the bigger vision of all this is to have domes in every community, also retreat domes, right, at eco villages and intentional communities. And you could, for instance, you could go into a Peruvian plant medicine ceremony. You can virtually interconnect all the domes. We call it the neurology between the domes. And there's so much you can do now with AI. It's just the potential is vast, and that's why I think an impact investor, you can really make an incredible impact on the planet if you think big like you're doing.
Sure.
We're doing that because we're trying to plant 1 billion trees by 2030, and we've reached 150 million, almost 200 million. So still got another 800 million to go. So, but engaging people around the world to plant trees digitally, and then it happens in reality, is powerful.
That's very cool.
Remy,
Can we save? Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Okay.
We've got a series of speakers. I want to get through them all, and then we're going to have a general discussion at the end. Can I ask people to save comments, feedback, because we could go on and on about these points. They're very important.
Yeah.
My only slight concern with Ed's vision is, as you know, AI is incredibly data hungry for energy and electricity. I mean, when we come to the discussion, I'd like to just ask, if we're going to have domes in every community, quote unquote, that's an awful lot of electricity being used up. What's the impact on the ecosystem? That's just a thing to think about. But anyway, let's move to a live poet. I'd like to invite Mari, who is from Finland and a performance poet, to share with us some of her Finnish magic.
Hello.
Greetings. We can hear you now.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, I'm Mari Haaksipuu. I am originally from Finland, Eastern Finland, the lakes and forests. And I call myself a wandering poet mostly. I did my master's in political science a couple of years ago, and since then I've been kind of trying to figure out what is the thing that makes sense to do? Where should I use my skills and my resources in this world where it is very easy to be desperate by the size of the issues that we have? So there has been two things I've been very certain about. One of them has been being in nature, being in touch with the elements, letting them teach me, letting them guide me. And the other one is poetry. To me, it seems like poetry is some kind of sacred substance that just simply flows through me. And when I let myself be guided by poetry and also work with creating spaces for poetry, I feel like I'm doing something right. I feel like that is something that is helping us forward in a way or another. So I have been invited to perform something in here, and I want to read to you a poem. This is in Finnish, because I mainly work in Finnish. But this is about the Delphi oracle, because in some ways, when I perform, I feel like I'm embodying that kind of character, because performing for me is usually kind of like a trance kind of state. And it is political, but it's also in the form of poesy that I do. So I invite you to surrender to the Finnish language. I'm very biased, but I do think it's the most beautiful language in the world. And I think sometimes it's very good to leave your mind out of it and let your intuition fill the gaps on what you can't understand. Ei omaisuutta, ei aviovuodetta, vain laakerinlehtiä hampaiden välissä. Kannussa kassatiksen lähteen pyhää vettä. Kaikkein pyhimmässä maailmannapa, maailmassa halkeamasta höyryä, suuren käärmeen ruumis mätänemässä maan alla. Neidoksi pukeutunut vanha nainen käy istumaan kolmijalkaiselle jakkaralle halkeaman ylle, hengittää sisään ja neuvoo runomitassa, kuinka ihmiskunta luodaan uudelleen suuren tulvan jälkeen. Ei omaisuutta, ei aviovuodetta, vain laakerinlehtiä hampaiden välissä. Kannussa kassatiksen lähteen pyhää vettä. Yön pimeässä ovesi käy, kahisee ja tiukuu. Lattialle tipahtaa mytty, suuri taiteilija käpertyy nukkumaan lattialle. Temppeliorakkelin dagen efter. tyhjäksi valahtanut malja, loppuun ennustettu ruumis, höyryistä hitaasti selvenevä pää. Ei omaisuutta, ei aviovuodetta, vain laakerinlehtiä hampaiden välissä. Kannussa kassatiksen lähteen pyhää vettä. Kiitos. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari. Do you have one for us in English that you can do as well?
Yeah, I can do one Dionysian one. I will leave the Finnish one out, and this is translation of a Finnish original that I have. I will just say shortly, one of the things about Dionysus that inspires me is that in some myths, he's also the god about bridging the gap, getting over a challenging interface. And he's told that he's hibernating in evergreens and ivies. And it is in the deep dark of winter where the new growth and the spring is prepared. And it's in the deep dark of winter that we just need to have a little bit of faith in something. So for that, I will read to you about Dionysus. The anarchist god of eternal becoming is hibernating within the evergreen ivies of my soul, shading my house from the sun and draping my many walls, clinging into my mind as sticky crystals, as a gently wild mycelium penetrating under the plaster and crushing my old layers. One must be born again, but not from the heavens, as Jesus would say, but from inside, deep inside, maasta minä olen tuleva, the earth. From the earth I shall be born. From the deep dark bowels of the earth, worms find their way into my dreams and wiggle my hair all along. The sticky green tendrils crumble my plaster, strip me down from my walls, and my body is open and closed and open and closed. And I'm not a prisoner of myself anymore. And what has been will be again. Nothing new will ever happen. The divine is resting within me. Everything is breathing through me, emerging and leading into itself. The pain yanks me inwards, shoots fractals around the walls. But I'm not a prisoner of anything anymore. I sit in the hallway, and currently I sit on the floor of my hostel room, and the world is open before me. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mari. And I just want to say Mari was visiting here at the European Peace Museum for the last couple of weeks, and we did some magical work together. I edited the only academic journal in the world on love, and Mari has been helping with that. So just to say thank you. And her poetry is fantastic up close and live, as it is on Zoom. And she's about to publish her first volume, we hope, in Finland. So that would be great. Okay, thank you. Right, can we move on? I want to invite Christian Kirsch, without whom none of us would be here, really. The founder of the Delphic movement, Delphic Games, well, the refounder. I mean, it was founded, over 1,500 years ago. But Christian, tell us in a nutshell, your vision going forward for the Delphic Academy and the Delphic movement in general, and a little bit about the past would set the scene for this. Thank you for being with us. And he's joining us from Berlin. Yeah.
Good evening, all of you. And thank you for the diversity it shows and what unites us. We have to consider that each of us, or most of us, speaking a different mother tongue. So we all jump into the English foreign language, and some shades are not visible, are not hearable, because it's hard to express. And for me, it shows the diversity of arts. And I asked myself tens of years ago, how to strengthen arts and culture, how to unite the diversity, how to reach a level to reveal the power of arts and culture. Because we are raised in different ways. And here in Europe, we're facing even now, after a Second World War, the next war, hopefully not to increase. I had no idea when I started about 40 years ago of thinking for a possibility how to strengthen arts and culture and also diversity without excluding talents, shades of arts. And I studied handicraft arts on a higher college to become an artist. Finally, I was no artist. I was not good enough. And so I changed and learned out of saving my survival a new profession, finance and economics, and became sponsor of the arts, singers, dancers, conductors, and visiting them in their training, in their rehearsals, I learned the basics of arts. That's what the public doesn't see. And I recognized it needs a floor to unite. Because besides all brilliance we see and face in sports, does not exist so far in the arts. And so I thought to myself, how was it to bring the researchers onto a floor under one umbrella? When I introduced this to specialists, they said to me, it doesn't work. Come on, stop. This is impossible. Arts and culture, you cannot organize. They are just too different. I said, yes, because we are trained to divide our society, business, competition. Division is the A to Z concept. And I concentrate on the opposite, what unites us the most. And I came to arts and culture and to thought what kind of logistic would work to bring them together. What is already existing, not to force people in the audience to learn too much, but to say, oh, I know it. It's not so strange. Great. And finally, I came up with the Olympics and called an initiative Olympic Music Games, and received a nice letter from the National Olympic Committee, Germany. Don't dare to use the word Olympic. We are the one, and be aware of this. And some of you might experience that the ant, when it's threatened by an elephant, stands up on their legs and said, I will go into your ear and drive you nuts. You cannot just push me in the earth. And I went to the university, the Ludwig Maximilian University, and asked the dean of the philosophical department, Professor, please be so kind and teach me. I want to do this. And I told him what I want to do. And he said, what you are doing has nothing to do with Olympia. This is Delphi. I said, yes, Delphi. I heard about the oracle and the city in Greece. This was my education then. And he said, my special field, the last tens of years, are the Pythian, the Delphic games. They are unfortunately not taught, but they are the real powerhouse. Because spirit is the driving force of innovation, of coming together. If you miss this opportunity, you produced the norms. And instead, a 12-cylinder, a 6-cylinder car, you add 12 cylinders, and now you say the invention is done. And so I did something different. I went to Greece and learned. I went in his lectures and learned, and finally was ready to find a structure, learning from Olympia, adding art or dividing categories. And then finally, I even came up with 6 art categories, 2 arts of modern times and 4 traditional arts, and said, no one is excluded, but let's unite under one umbrella in the Delphic games of modern times. And the result was finally, we came up with 4 traditional called musical arts and sounds as first, the second performing arts and acrobatic, the third language arts and rhetoric, and the fourth visual arts and handicraft. And then I came up with arts of modern times, social arts and communication, and ecological arts and architecture. And the specialists, they said already, oh my God, what a crazy fellow. It doesn't exist. This doesn't exist. There's no place. To make the long story short, 7 worldwide games took place in 3 continents. We proved art categories are not a dividing line, but a uniting line, helping to give the shades of arts and culture and expression. And thank God I found people like you, and in particularly Thomas and Inger Mette and others, feeling that what I do is good, but to an extent it limits me. How to become brighter, richer, how to exchange the position of looking at something which is uncommon. And all of a sudden it changes. And this drove me tens of years. And this is the reason that I need your assistance to search for those who want to change the world, not by directing something, but inviting. And for example, almost all the themes I listen to are part of the Delphic games, and not in a competition, but in what art is even higher developed or reaches out in a new, for example, the domes. I never heard about the dome strategy. Could you imagine what it means to bring new content, new ideas into the world community? And this drives me wild. And this is what keeps me alive. And the next sign here is after 7 worldwide Delphic games, we focus now on the first European Delphic games, because arts and culture is regional, continental, it's diverse. And this is what we intend to do this year, to launch the new format, the additional format of the worldwide Delphic Games, the continental Delphic Games, and as a nice aperçu or next to add, sports has fire as the symbolic element. Delphi, arts, has water as its spiritual element. And that's what drives us. And so I can just invite you, help me think, to search for hosts, and let us link the networks of arts and culture together, because each single art is not enough, cannot turn the world upside down to a positive tomorrow. But if we do it together in a structure we developed the last 30 years in practice as well, we will manage reaching the same eye height as the Olympic Games, the sponsorship, the money, not begging on our knees, coming on our feet. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Christian, for your shining example. And you've been leading this path for a long time. And I'm glad to support it in my role as coordinator of the Delphic Academy. So I want to move on to our next speaker. If I may call on Uday Dandavate. You were talking about new kinds of art. We've heard about the domes. Uday is a pioneer in design and related artistic and architectural and other fields. He's just published an autobiography, which is a masterpiece. He has a fascinating background. He's of Indian origin, but lives in, I believe, in California. And Uday, tell us a potted version of your life story and about your vision for design. Why you call yourself a design activist? Can you design world peace for us? And what would that look like? Over to you. You've got to unmute, sir. No, we can't. You're muted still. Sorry, can you hear me, Uday? Can you unmute, please? Click the mic.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
So the biography Thomas referred to is this. It's called Being and Belonging, A Journey of Curiosity. And this is the first bound book that I received today as a sample before it goes into production. Anyway, so let me give my story quickly. I was trained as an industrial designer in India. 31 years ago, I moved to the US, first in Ohio, and then 16 years ago to San Francisco. I studied from design and moved to studying psychology, anthropology, and sociology to become a design researcher. And for the past 30 years, I've been traveling around the world, studying people, cultures, and change. And I'm typically hired by technology companies who want to understand people from unfamiliar cultures, unfamiliar backgrounds, unfamiliar profiles, and get inside their heads. So if I met you on a flight and you asked me, what do you do? My simple answer would be, I study imagination. And that just one answer has made me so many friends, because they ask, oh, tell me what? What is that? Study my imagination. All kinds of reactions I get. But anyway, so now I call myself an ethnographer of imagination. I worked with tech, Ed, as just like you, but helping people get inside people's heads and understand how they picture the future, their own, and worlds. Through that process, a little before COVID, one day I was on a mountain in Grizzly Peak Vista Point in Oakland, California, and a feather came flying towards me. I tried to catch it and it flew away. it was just maybe a 2-second moment. That night at 3 o'clock, I woke up and I saw myself in that feather. I sat in my bed and wrote a poem called An Unstuck Feather. Since then, I started writing poems. I've never written a poem. It all came together. Since then, I've written about 400 poems, published 3 books, one for kids, and now this is the 4th book, which is the first prose that I wrote. A poem I found has had ripple effects. A student of music in Carnegie Mellon composed a cappella. I created a music video based on his a cappella. Likewise, my wife recently uh, uh, collected a group of a dancer, a musician, a percussionist, and turned my poem into a dance piece, Indian classical dance piece. And it was so powerful. I went back and created a videographic backdrop to run alongside that dance piece. So essentially, a designer who was working for tech industry has transformed himself into a poet, an ethnographer. Um, I also did 60 different interviews with people from different fields as a part of a project I created for myself, oral history project called A Legacy of India's Imagination, where I wanted to see people from different fields, how is their imagination evolved? And through all of those experiments and ideas and travels, I've arrived at a conclusion. Can I share my screen, please?
I believe you have that. Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you seeing the screen?
Yes.
So what I see is I have a model of what I think the world needs. It's a mindful fusion, a pathway to a convivial society. It begins with nurturing imagination, and there are these pairs of values, curiosity and an open mind, compassion and critical thinking, caring and sharing, healing and regenerating. All of that leads to a pathway to a convivial society. That's my kind of realization. I would like to share, if you don't mind, for a moment, a little piece from that video that a dance that my wife composed. Are you seeing a screen of a dance? Not yet, right?
We've sort of got half a screen. It's showing the top bit.
Now let me stop this, stop sharing, and now I'm going to share again, and I'm going to share this. Do you see it now?
Oh yes, we do. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just make it a little big and just play a little piece. Okay.
Great, go for it.
Oh, what is this?
Stupid.
Sorry. No, I didn't mean to.
It's a message from
play
De
this.
Niro. Yeah, great film guy.
Yeah.
To come and share.
Okay. I translated it to Hindi. Yeah, I'll stop at that. I have limited time. So this goes on for 20 minutes, but this is the story of the feather, and the wordings show how and why I saw myself in that feather. Poetry has given me a lot of opportunities to connect with people. I do believe I've come to another conclusion that as a designer, as an artist, as a person, a poet, I think we all have a role to play in shaping social imagination, a collective imagination. And that's a concept I drew from sociology. And one act of art or one act of design doesn't help a lot. But when you recognize that you can have an impact and influence collectively by mobilizing various creative acts of everyday people, engage them to create, to express with principles of art and not principles of business. What you create is you tap into their natural proclivity for harmony and tranquility. And what emerges is more in sync with nature's principle of cohabitation, of respect for diversity, cooperation, and modesty and beauty. And I think that's what I have been dedicating my time to. I've paused my business since 2 years ago. I started my sabbatical, and I've just kept extending it because I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I organize community meetings. I organize poetry reading sessions. During COVID, I was a part of an initiative from England called Poetry and COVID. It was started by two professors in the UK, and they invited an anthropologist to create a video on the impact of my poetry on various other people. So I think I would like to just pause at that and just say that I do believe that everybody is endowed with creativity, with imagination, with curiosity. And I have learned to give up my pride and ego as a designer that I'm trained in creativity. I want to tap into everyday people's curiosity and imagination and unleash a whole new future where we create a new renaissance of harmony, imagination, and a lot of fun. That's it.
Well, thank you so much, Uday. I have to say, you must live in San Francisco to be talking like that. I remember.
Well, right now I'm in India. In fact, it's past midnight now, and I'm actually supposed to speak at a conference tomorrow morning.
Well, there we are. I'm so grateful you joined us. And
I was so interested in. I was so interested in this. I needed to listen to all of you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I just want to say Uday is a close friend of Sam Pitroda, an Indian American like Uday, who also is helping with the World Intellectual Wisdom Forum. So that's how we've met, through Sam's work. He's also a technologist, but a visionary who's written a book about democracy recently. And, what role for the arts and design is part of that, because we live in an industrial society. And so we need to get designers, retooling, as you say, from the imagination, the everyday world, le quotidien, as they say in French. But thank you again for all your work. It's fantastic. And
thank you, Thomas.
You're an example to us all. Yeah. Okay, we've got one. Pyrrhus, are you with us? Can you join us from Athens? Because Pyrrhus Makouris is a key part of the Delphic Academy. He's our treasurer, so that's an incredibly important role. But he's also an amazing networker who's been active in Greece for many years in the art scene, culture. And Pyrrhus, tell us what your vision is for the Delphic Academy. And you're working with the Erasmus scheme at the moment. Tell us about that.
Right. I'm trying to get an application to Erasmus sorted out. That's the European funding program for education, and I'll be working on it tonight. The problem is, guys, I'm at work. I also work in a hostel for young people, and I've got them coming in and going. So it's very difficult for me to engage in this meeting. What I will say is that working with Christian for several years now, I feel that we are reaching a point, a critical point of a sort of cluster of activities. So there is room for optimism that things will go forward. There had been problems from 2008, you know, that period when the banks collapsed. And there was a lag up to about 2010. Now it's coming back together again. And so there is room for optimism. As for this project, Actors, that we're going to do, it's actually enhancing the skills of teachers. So we're looking to enhance the skills of teachers. And the deadline is 5th of March. But there's a lot of donkey work that has to be done, and I'm going to have to try and do it now. And I'm under pressure by Miss Crisula Hardy. It's a pity, Christian Thomas, that you couldn't attend the meeting. I think there's going to be a meeting sometime tomorrow. If there is, I'll give you a tinkle on the old dog and bone, a buzz on the old dog and bone.
Yeah, I'll support it. Absolutely.
Telephone. I slipped into my London Argot by accident, and I'll see if you can get you on board. I'll try and write some material and just stay in the loop. You and Christian, because I'll probably need you, Christian, at some point. So there's the budget to discuss. There's a lot of things to see.
Sure. Well, Paris, we love the work you're doing. And can I just say about...
I really enjoy working with refugees and migrants, young people. I've got Abdul Rahman. Abdul. He's a lovely lad from Aleppo, Syria. He's a real refugee. He's my favorite. He's my favorite son. Hello. Okay, so
excellent. Well, that's the sort of front line of why we're doing this work.
Yeah, that young lad that you saw here I got horrible psychotic problems. He's on suicide watch, but he's worth every penny. He's worth his weight in gold. He's drugs, you name it, but it's not his fault. He's a good lad. So I like the work, and I do other jobs because in Greece I'm paid peanuts. So I have to work doing another job, editing an online magazine, but that's nothing to do with culture. That's donkey work. All right, I have to.
Sure, you better get on with your charges.
You better mute me now. Hold on a minute.
Thanks, Paris, for joining us. And
I'm just going to say goodbye because I've got people waiting for me outside.
Sure, we're coming to the end. We've only got one more scheduled.
I wish I could stay. I'll watch.
But thank you so much for your contribution, Claire.
Thank you. Love to you all. Thank
see you again.
So much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Be well.
Okay, so I'd like to invite our last speaker, Uri, who I believe is in Italy. Uri, do you want to unmute and share your vision of the Delphic Academy and what you're doing in the arts? Yes, please.
Yeah, so thank you for this. And the most important thing that I do is that I'm a father. So that's why I've been off camera preparing and kind of trying to pay attention to you and to my daughters and dinner time here. But I want to start by saying, you know, because you said about peace and truth, and I want to recognize that I am from Israel originally. And, you know, once Aristophanes wrote a play about a man that asked for private peace. It's called Diakopolis, and he went to negotiate a private peace with Sparta. And I feel like a little bit like Diakopolis. I'm trying to figure out my private peace situation. But I also believe strongly that we need to sort of transcend the national paradigm in a way. And at the same time, I want to disassociate myself completely from the Israeli government and actions that they have committed and are committing not in my name. I also want to say that I've been allied and allying with people in Palestine, in Senegal, and I think it's really important for me also to take a moment and say, I am not, but I am from that story. So I recognize that before I speak. Working with actually Claire and Inga Mette about different projects. I'm a social artist. I'm very interested right now in giving. I don't like, maybe we started with this idea of voicing Gaia or giving voice to nature, but then I realized this is also very ethnocentric to say that we are the one giving voice to Gaia. It's Gaia speaks and we listen. So it's Gaia's council now. And I made a short video where we use it for the launch of the Gaia's Council experience that I hope will be maybe part of the Delphic Games in some way, and it's kind of an invocation. So I put the in the chat. Unfortunately, I'm on a phone, so I cannot share screen. But I'll.
Do you want it at? Okay.
Maybe someone else can do that. It's just 1 minute and 40 seconds. Yeah, it's a message from Gaia and an invitation for the Delphic Games to speak in her name, but in our names as well.
Uri, do you want us to share it?
Yeah, it's possible if someone can share the video.
Thomas, do you share it or do you want me to share it?
Can you share it, please? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't actually see it in the chat anywhere.
Yeah. Click here, Uri. Or,
yeah, I shared it before, but let me share it again.
you share it with me on the.
Yeah, but I can just share it in the chat so you all have it. It's not exclusive. You can watch it again and again. Here it is.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, yeah. Vimeo. Okay.
So you have to give me access, Thomas, so I can share.
Let me try
It's a
clicking on
living library. Yeah. I believe it is this one. Is it, Thomas? Correct? Correct, Uri?
Yuri. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Aha. It's not a good idea.
Okay. Living library.
You need to optimize for video in your options.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't do it right.
Yeah, there's the three little it might come up in the share dialogue when you first bring that up.
Can you do it fast, Ed? Can you do it? You have the shared screen?
If you send the link.
It's in the chat for the it's in the chat.
Tell you what, folks, look, because we're running up to the hour, can I leave it to other people?
In games, whether it is a real game or board game or video game, or whether it is the game of life, or whether it's the game of your job, or the game of what you're trying to get out of your relationship. But these drivers are operating subconsciously, and a lot of game design, there is no consciousness almost about that subconscious layer, other than if it's driven by kind of more like game dynamics of maximum profit. Then what drives it, these people have very much in depth studied how to.
Okay, look, because we're coming up to the end of our meeting, I'm going to leave it to people to watch that in their own time. You'll have the link. I'll send it to you. Okay. Is there anyone else who hasn't yet spoken? Martina or anyone else? Shabina in Kashmir, or Sean in Ireland. Would anyone else like to add a few thoughts or comments on what we've been discussing? We've had a rich meeting. I'd like to thank everyone who's contributed. Martina, do you want to add something about theatre? You've been silent but listening. Where's your work is important in theatre.
Thank you.
Hello.
This was very inspiring, but especially now after I heard all these stories and information, I even more need to contemplate. So I can just give a short context where I come from, and then for next time I can prepare more, and definitely we will have a lot of dialogues to talk about. So I'm from Croatia. At the moment, I'm based in Croatia, and I'm theater educator, theater practitioner. And for me, theater, since I was a kid, it naturally came to happen to be a space for dialogue. So we tackled lots of themes and subjects which I personally and professionally can relate to. So yeah, there is a lot to think about. Once again, thank you so much, and it was so inspiring. So this little from me this time, and sure. Yeah, I think we have 2 hours of good interaction. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Martina. Next month, at the next meeting, hopefully hear more. Sean, do you want to add something about Ireland? Can you reach out to the bards and storytellers of Ireland? Because we've not heard about storytelling.
Yes,
and it's so important. Yeah.
Thanks very much. And it was really an inspiring meeting. Thanks, Thomas, and all the contributors. I mean, it's like the last speaker. The next meeting, I'm looking forward to say something. Maybe Mary wants to say something about the storytelling.
Yes, I think, Thomas, you've hit the nail on the head. Ireland doesn't have a huge tradition of visual development. We do keep artists, but our storytelling would be the most important thing to us, and our music. So our stories and our music would be our contribution, I would imagine. And theatre, of course, as part of storytelling, they would be our contributions, I would imagine, to the Delphic Games, that we would be really at home.
And you two are working on a single-handed project called Lex Innocentium to reactivate the peace and neutrality track of Irish history. So that's important too.
It's based in ancient Irish history, and we kind of couch it in stories of peace and love and kindness. That would be the values that we're trying to promote. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, which as a Druid, I've always been interested in the Irish Druid tradition because they were into peace and non-violence, the Druids. They were not allowed to fight.
And the love of nature.
Yeah, so that's important. Okay, Kurt, please comment. We've been looking forward to you.
I've been loving everything that has been expressed. I mean, who wouldn't? In regard to bringing peace to the planet in a joyous way. I've put in a ton of information that I spread as much as I can anywhere, any of the platforms that I get to be on, because as a polymath, we get to approach every aspect of living that can bring peace. So I put in things to bring peace inside and outside. The World Fest event is something that can easily bring people together in a joyous way. And it's all about, it basically has that whole Delphic experience. So if you will, look at any or all of the things that attract you and what I've laid out in the chat, and keep dancing and singing and enjoying the play of consciousness. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kurt. Yeah. Okay, look, I'm going to draw this meeting to a close, and I'm going to read one final poem, which you'll see why I've chosen this poem. It's from my 7th volume. This is me with my poetry hat on. That's me giving a reading. And this poem is my poem number 1001. So this is 1001 published poems. This is the most recent one I've published. It's called All the Philosophers Are Dead. All the philosophers are dead. They used to be living, but have now returned to the higher world, found the infinite gap between everything and nothingness, where concepts float about like ghosts, flapping and waving. All the philosophers are dead, and their works are standing upright on shelves, arranged in stacks, in tight lines. Their books black and brown and blue, bound, formal, with minimal lettering stamped on their spines. And inside, are printed the words, arranged like skeletal keys, to describe that here, somehow, a mind once flew zenithwards, soaring, tiny, tiny, unreachable. All the philosophers are dead, except those among us who succeeded in hiding among the poets. We are still living. So there we are. There's my last little manifesto on the link between poetry and philosophy. So look, love you all. You'll be invited to the next meeting and we'll have other artists join us. Thank you for a rich meeting, and thank you to Apollo and Gaia and Dionysus for the Delphic concept. Let's keep it alive, people. Okay. Blessings to everyone.
Zoom in peace. This is the peace salute. You see the world as it is. It's all love, every single thing in creation. And you say zoom peace, and you throw it out to the world.
Okay, I like it.
What is it?
And it looks like an owl when it's on your head, Kurt. It looks like an owl. So that's the bird of Athena.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Cheers.
Okay.
Thank you
Go in
all.
peace.
Salute.
Lovely to meet you.
Ciao.